Lithgow area, you'll find it hard not to know about the debate that's raging around the proposed pumped hydro power station that Energy Australia wants to build there. That proposal has mobilised a groundswell of opposition, and there have been some very dramatic exchanges at Lithgow Council meetings. And leaving the power station proposal to one side, there's also concerns over the fate of the recreation area at Lake Lyell, with the current lease currently under review by Council. A war of words seems to be brewing in social media too, with Lithgow Mayor Marie Statham last week lashing out at comments by some groups or individuals, she doesn't name names, suggesting they are telling, quote, untruths about the fate of the Lake Lyell recreation site. Well, that's drawn fire from the Concerned Lithgow Community Group Inc., or CLC for short. And joining me on the line now is Rob White from CLC. Good morning, Rob, and thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Now, you feel the Mayor was specifically referring to your group in her comments last week. Why is that?
Well, look, we're not certain that it was us she was referring to in particular when she referred to social media and activists, but we're the ones that actually raised the issue with Lake Lyell and the way Lithgow Council manages it. So we assume that we're at least partly in the firing line for this.
Well, taking a step back from that, Lake Lyell, it's obviously, as you say, a very popular destination for locals and indeed people from all over the place. What's your view of the pumped hydro proposal, and what does it mean for the local residents and people who just enjoy the lake?
Even though Energy Australia, they put out their recent concept design, and when they put that out, to be honest, I was devastated. I was expecting it to be bad, but it was worse than I thought. But what is important is we've come to understand better what is actually being proposed, and the level of destruction on Mount Walker, and in particular environmentally and things like that, is going to be enormous. The impact on Lake Lyell as a recreational area, whilst they try and play that down, is huge, because the water will be going up and down 2.1 metres per day if we assume that the lake is full. Now, if you actually read the fine print, we all know that the lake's not always full with droughts and so forth, but they've actually set a minimum operating level at 5.5 metres below full capacity. So that means potentially the lake could drop up to 5.5 metres, and that's pretty significant for anyone that's using the lake.
And pretty significant, I would have thought, for the habitat of the platypus, because they live in the banks.
Look, and most people that look at social media will see the videos that I've taken of platypus up in the top end, so that they're not in short supply. We do know that they're up, and they're mostly in the Farmers Creek Arm, which is where all of this is actually happening. So I'm a veterinarian, or retired veterinarian, and I've got to say that's an area of concern that's specific to me, because I just couldn't imagine losing all the platypus up there.
I mean, they can halt work for the blue-winged copper butterfly, but the platypus doesn't seem to get enough PR, does it?
No, and the problem is in South Australia, the platypus is classed as endangered. In Victoria, it's classed as threatened, but it doesn't have either of those classifications yet in New South Wales. But it's interesting, until it gets one of those classifications, basically nobody cares. And even some people within the organisation that I discussed with, they understand that if we keep doing this, eventually they do become endangered or threatened if we don't stop it beforehand.
Rob White, there's a great deal of talk about what Lithgow is going to do for a living after the coal runs out, and the general push away from carbon towards renewable energy. Now, given the economic and the meta-environmental issues, can we actually afford to keep our lovely lake as a wildlife habitat and just generally a place to go and enjoy yourself?
Absolutely we can. What people don't realise is, I know Energy Australia pays great emphasis to construction times, where they're going to build a work area for 400 workers who will mostly be fly in and fly out. If you actually read the fine print, after construction, it states quite clearly in their documentation there's 20 jobs. And certainly we will lose places like Eagle View, and potentially lose places with the wedding venues like Seclusions, and all of the people that come to town for those items, and shop, coffee, you name it, whatever in town, all for something that's going to produce 20 jobs. We encourage batteries, because batteries, number one, are less environmentally destructive, certainly for Lithgow, but also they actually create more jobs.
As a matter of fact, I raised that very point when I was having a word with De Vink project lead for Energy Australia. Thank you, Mike
yes.
DeVink. And he was saying, yes, that's true. The only trouble is that batteries just don't have the lifespan of a pump hydro power station. You're constantly having to renew them. But they can be delivered at a fraction of the cost. So it swings and roundabouts. There's no such thing as a perfect solution. Wouldn't you agree?
Look, that's true. And in the renewable energy field, everything comes with a price. Now, the question is, what are the acceptable prices versus what are not the acceptable price? Our attitude is what they're proposing for the Lake Lyell Pumped Hydro is unacceptable. Batteries, they typically have to replace them more regularly, but they can actually put them in for often a tenth of the cost of something like a pumped hydro. Now, the other thing that happens here is Energy Australia has stated that the lifespan of Lake Lyell Pumped Hydro is 80 years. My personal experience is that very few energy projects last that long. But when it is finished, what do you do with this? And the answer is, it's not my problem because I won't be here and you and many of your listeners won't be here. But some future generation is going to have to deal with what is the leftover of this. Batteries, eminently replaceable. Certainly could put them on Mount Piper site and multiple batteries there as well. Already has the infrastructure, already has everything, and produces power at a comparable level to the pumped hydro.
Rob White, do you and your colleagues sometimes get a sense of fatalistic inevitability about this? Are you putting on a brave face, but, deep down in your heart of hearts, it's a done deal?
Look, we know we're fighting a rising tide. However, we still have enough faith that sooner or later people in key positions, a la governments and so forth, will actually start listening. And one thing that Energy Australia, I think, is aware, just because they may get this to go ahead, it doesn't mean we will stop resisting. We will still keep fighting even after that event, if that occurs. But they keep saying we've got 12 to 18 months to find out. We just need more people on board and actually prepared to talk about the resistance.
There is, of course, quite a lot of process left in this through Council, but how would you characterise the conduct of Lithgow City Council to date in this affair?
Look, Lithgow City Council, they could have voted against the preliminaries that they passed. Now, certainly legally, they might say they couldn't, but what I'm looking for is councillors that are actually prepared to stand up for the community and not just take bureaucratic things into action.
And how many of those have we got at the moment?
Look, I feel that probably there's room for improvement, shall we say, at the next election. And we really need people, not just councillors, we also need members of the council that are working there to actually have local involvement, not that just live out of town and come and work here. To them, they don't have the feeling that the people in town have for. So I think we need certainly a new broom to come in and look at people looking for a community and also encourage employment here that's from within.
Rob White, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me.
2LT.